Right then, Forest faithful, gather round, because what I'm about to tell you will leave you absolutely speechless. And I mean that quite literally. This isn't just another regular Tuesday evening chat about our beloved Reds. This isn't another routine post-match analysis where we pick apart the usual suspects and move on with our lives. No, no, no. This is about a night that'll haunt the city ground corridors for weeks to come. A night when everything that could go wrong went spectacularly, dramatically, heartbreakingly wrong in the most Forest way possible. Picture this scene for me. We're cruising through a cup tie against championship opposition. We're flying like we haven't flown in months. We're 2-0 up and looking absolutely unstoppable for 45 glorious minutes. The new lads are clicking. The gaffer's revolutionary system is purring like a well-oiled machine. And for one beautiful half of football, we genuinely looked like a side that belonged in the Premier League, that deserved to be mixing it with the big boys. Then something happened that defies all logic, all reason, all bloody sense. Something so catastrophically Forest that you couldn't script it if you tried. 4 minutes of madness. 4 minutes that turned triumph into disaster, turned celebration into heartbreak, turned what should have been a statement victory into yet another painful reminder of why supporting this club requires the emotional resilience of a bomb disposal expert. But here's what's got me absolutely fuming tonight, what's keeping me up at night pacing around my living room. It wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't just one of those things that happen in football. It wasn't some cruel twist of fate or referee incompetence. This was self-inflicted. This was complacency at its most destructive. This was everything we swore we'd never become under our bright new management. I've got 3 absolutely crucial stories for you tonight that'll piece together this disaster like a forensic investigation. First, the moment our Brazilian magician finally announced himself to English football, scoring his first goals in Forest Red, playing like the striker we've been crying out for, only to watch helplessly from the sideline as everything he'd built crumbled to dust. Then, the brutal, uncompromising words from our gaffer that'll make your blood boil because deep down in your gut, you know every single word he said was absolutely spot on. And finally, the raw frustration, the sheer disbelief, the existential crisis of watching 2 years of cup dreams disappear in 4 minutes of defensive madness that belonged in Sunday League, not professional football. Before we dive headfirst into this absolute mess, I need you to do something for me. Smash that like button if you're as gutted, as frustrated, as properly done with nights like this as I am, and drop a comment telling me, because I genuinely want to know. Have you ever witnessed a collapse this painful, this utterly preventable, this devastatingly typical of our beloved, maddening football club? Right then, let's start with the one genuinely bright spark in this nightmare. He's been waiting patiently in the shadows for months. He's been biding his time while every Forest fan and their dog questioned whether this Brazilian import would ever find his feet in the rough and tumble of English football, whether the 11.5 million we splashed out was money well spent, or just another expensive mistake in our recent history of questionable transfer decisions. Well, last night at the Swansea Stadium, under the floodlights in Wales, Igor Jesus finally stepped out of the darkness and into Forest folklore. But for all the wrong reasons, in the most heartbreakingly typical fashion imaginable. Let me paint you the complete picture of how this magical night began, because the first goal was pure poetry in motion, the kind of moment that makes you fall in love with football all over again. 15 minutes on the clock, we're pressing high up the pitch like proper Postecoglou disciples, winning the ball back aggressively, and Omari Hutchinson picks it up wide on the left. The lad cuts inside with pace, fires in a shot that deflects wickedly off a Swansea defender, and suddenly the ball's bouncing around the 6-yard box like a pinball machine gone mad. But here's where Igor Jesus showed exactly why we bought him. Exactly what kind of striker's instinct separates the wheat from the chaff. While every other player on that pitch was still processing what had happened, still reacting to the deflection, our Brazilian was already moving, already reading the flight of the ball, already positioning himself for the rebound. Cool as you like, right foot, side-footed finish straight into the bottom corner. No panic, no snatching at the chance. just pure striker's composure. The away end went absolutely mental, proper bedlam, grown men hugging strangers and singing songs that haven't been heard at the city ground in months. Igor's face lit up like a Christmas tree, and for the first time since his move from Botafogo after their Club World Cup triumph, we're all thinking the same thing. Right, we've got ourselves a proper number 9 here, a genuine goal scorer who knows where the net is. But if the first goal was instinct and opportunism, the second was pure team football, the kind of move that gets shown on Match of the Day as an example of how the beautiful game should be played. Just before halftime, when most teams are thinking about getting to the interval safely, we strung together 19 consecutive passes. 19. Like we were Barcelona in their absolute prime. Like we were playing total football in the Johan Cruyff era. James McAtee, our new boy from Manchester City, starts the move deep in our own half, plays a gorgeous 1-2 with Nicolo Savona that splits the Swansea midfield wide open, then surges forward like a man possessed. He whips in a cross to the far post with the outside of his right boot. Perfect delivery, inch perfect, and Hutchinson cushions it back across goal with the deftest of touches. And there's Igor Jesus again, following up like a proper number 9 should. Like the natural-born goal scorer we've been missing for God knows how long, tucking it away with his left foot for his second of the night. 2 goals, 2 moments of absolute class, 2 finishes that would have made Alan Shearer proud. Suddenly, we're all thinking the unthinkable. This is it. This is the night everything clicks under the new gaffer. This is the performance that shows everyone we mean business this season. The Brazilian looked sharp, looked hungry, looked like exactly what we've been missing since we can remember having a striker who actually finishes his dinner instead of serving it up to the opposition goalkeeper. The stats tell the story. In 45 minutes of football, Igor Jesus had more shots on target than some of our strikers manage in entire months. 2 goals from 4 attempts, 100% conversion rate when it mattered, link-up play that brought the best out of everyone around him. This wasn't just a good performance, this was a statement of intent from a player who'd clearly been studying English football, adapting his game, waiting for his moment to shine. But here's the thing that'll break your heart into 1,000 pieces, the cruel twist that sums up everything about supporting Nottingham Forest. Igor Jesus came off at halftime. Whether it was tactical, whether it was planned rotation, whether the gaffer was protecting his match winner for bigger battles ahead, we'll probably never know the full truth. What we do know is that he had to sit there in the dugout, helpless as a newborn baby, watching from the sideline as everything he'd built in those magnificent first 45 minutes crumbled to absolute dust. Think about that for a moment. You score your first goals for your new club, you're finally feeling at home in a new country, you're thinking, right, I've arrived, I belong at this level, and then you watch your teammates throw it all away without you being able to do a damn thing about it. That's the kind of heartbreak that stays with a player forever. The kind of night that either makes you stronger or breaks your confidence completely. The lad showed real quality, real composure, real striker's instincts that we haven't seen at the city ground in far too long. In a different timeline, in a parallel universe where Forest players know how to see out a football match, we're talking about Igor Jesus' perfect debut as a starter. We're discussing whether he should start the next Premier League match. We're dreaming about what he might achieve over a full season. Instead, we're talking about the night he scored 2 absolute beauties and still ended up on the losing side, still ended up walking off that pitch with his head down, wondering what more he could have done to help his team avoid disaster. What did you make of Igor's performance? Finally, the striker we've been waiting for, or just a flash in the pan that'll disappear when the real pressure arrives? Let me know in the comments because I'm genuinely buzzing about what I saw from him in those 45 minutes, even in the midst of this crushing defeat. Right. If that doesn't sum up our luck perfectly, wait until you hear what the gaffer had to say about his players. When your manager stands in front of the cameras after a defeat like that and uses the word comfortable to describe his players' mentality, you know you're in for a proper dressing down that'll leave marks for weeks to come. And let me tell you, Ange Postecoglou did not hold back, did not pull any punches, did not offer the kind of diplomatic nonsense we've grown accustomed to from previous managers. The Australian was absolutely seething, and honestly, every single word he said was spot on, brutally accurate, and exactly what needed to be said. The players became a little too comfortable, he said, and you could see the disappointment written all over his weathered face. The kind of disappointment that comes from a manager who's given everything to prepare his team properly, only to watch them throw it all away through sheer complacency. They assumed it would naturally conclude in our favor, and we have paid a steep price for that assumption. Comfortable, against championship opposition, when we should have been going for the jugular, when we should have been putting the game beyond doubt, when we should have been showing exactly why we play in the Premier League, and they don't. The word itself is like a dagger through the heart of everything Postecoglou stands for as a football manager. But here's what really got to me about the gaffer's post-match interview. What made me want to throw something at the television. He wasn't just angry about the result, wasn't just frustrated about losing a cup tie we should have won with our eyes closed. He was angry about the mentality, about the attitude, about the fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be a professional footballer at the highest level. This is a man who's built his entire career on relentless, high-intensity football, on never letting up until the final whistle, on treating every minute of every match like it's the most important 60 seconds of your life. He's the manager who transformed Tottenham's attack, who made Celtic absolutely unstoppable in Scotland, who demands 90 minutes of complete concentration, total commitment, unwavering intensity from every single player who pulls on the shirt. And what does he get in his first proper chance to show the Forest faithful what they can expect under his leadership? Players switching off like they're playing a testimonial match, thinking they're bigger than championship opposition, acting like 2 goals is enough against anyone with a pulse and a pair of boots. We needed to finish them off, and we had numerous chances to do exactly that, Postecoglou continued, and his voice carried the weight of a man who'd watched his tactical instructions ignored, his game plan abandoned, his philosophy betrayed by players who should know better. And he's absolutely right, isn't he? How many times did we get in behind their defense in that second half? How many times could we have made it 3-0, 4-0, put the game completely and utterly beyond doubt? I counted at least 6 clear-cut opportunities where we could have killed the tie stone dead. Calimuendo threw one-on-one but choosing the wrong option. McAtee blazing over from 12 yards when he had time to pick his spot. Hutchinson cutting inside but shooting straight at the goalkeeper when the far corner was gaping wide open. 6 chances to end Swansea's hopes. 6 opportunities to show the kind of ruthlessness that separates good teams from great ones. But no, instead we started passing it around the back like we were protecting a 5-0 lead in the 89th minute, started playing keep ball like the job was already done, started treating a cup tie like a training ground exercise. The intensity dropped. The urgency disappeared. The killer instinct that had served us so well in the first half evaporated like morning mist. Tonight was a significant opportunity for us to advance in a prestigious cup competition and create a genuine chance for success this season. Allowing it to slip through our fingers is exceedingly disappointing, Postecoglou added, and you can hear the frustration bleeding through every syllable. This was supposed to be his moment. His chance to show the Forest faithful exactly what they could expect under his revolutionary management style. His opportunity to build momentum after the disastrous 3-0 defeat to Arsenal at the weekend. Instead, it turned into a masterclass in how not to see out a football match. A cautionary tale about the dangers of complacency. A painful reminder that in football, the game is never over until that final whistle blows and the referee points toward the tunnel. But here's what I genuinely respect about Postecoglou. What sets him apart from so many managers in the modern game? He's not making excuses, he's not blaming the referee for non-existent decisions, he's not pointing fingers at bad luck or cruel bounces or any of the other convenient scapegoats that weak managers hide behind. He's calling it exactly as he sees it, with the kind of brutal honesty that his players desperately needed to hear. His players got comfortable, and comfortable doesn't win you football matches, especially not in cup competitions where anything can happen, where championship teams arrive with nothing to lose and everything to prove. It certainly doesn't win you the kind of silverware that this club and these supporters deserve after years of disappointment and near misses. The man came to Forest with a reputation for attacking football that takes your breath away, for never settling for good enough, for pushing players to their absolute physical and mental limits every single training session. And now, he's learned the hard way, in the most painful manner possible, that some of our lads still think they can coast through matches against lower league opposition. This is exactly the kind of wake-up call that needed to happen, the kind of harsh reality check that might just save our season if the players are smart enough to listen and learn from it. Do you think Postecoglou was right to call out the players so publicly, or should he have kept these criticisms behind closed doors? Drop your thoughts below, because this is exactly the kind of no-nonsense management some of these players have needed to hear for months. But if you think the manager's words were brutal, wait until you hear about the deeper frustration that's eating away at everyone connected with this football club. You know what the absolute worst part about all of this catastrophe is? It's not just the defeat itself. It's not even the utterly humiliating manner of the collapse. It's the complete and utter waste of what should have been a genuinely special night for this football club, a night that could have marked the beginning of something beautiful under new management. And when Ange Postecoglou spoke about his frustration after that final whistle had mercifully ended our misery, you could feel every ounce of disappointment radiating through the screen, every bit of pain that comes from watching a golden opportunity slip through your fingers. That's perfectly fine. This isn't about me or my reputation, it's about the club, the gaffer said, when pressed about whether this setback would affect his own standing with the supporters and the board. It's about our progression as a football club and establishing the kind of environment where we can achieve genuine, lasting success. Do you hear that? That's a manager who genuinely cares about something bigger than himself, who sees the bigger picture, who understands exactly what this devastating defeat means for Forest as an institution, as a community, as a dream that thousands of people carry in their hearts. This was supposed to be the night we started believing again, the night we began to heal from the wounds of recent disappointments. After the absolutely brutal 3-0 thrashing from Arsenal at the weekend, after all the legitimate questions about whether Postecoglou was the right man for this particular job, after months of doubt and uncertainty surrounding the direction of this football club, this cup tie against Swansea represented the perfect opportunity to show that we're genuinely heading in the right direction. Instead, we've handed every doubter, every critic, every rival fan exactly the ammunition they wanted, exactly the evidence they needed to question everything we're trying to build here. The Twitter timeline is brutal. The phone-ins are savage. The message boards are absolutely toxic with the kind of negativity that threatens to poison everything positive we've achieved recently. But here's what's really eating at the manager. What should be eating at every single one of us who calls ourselves a Forest supporter? We had this game completely won. Absolutely, categorically, undeniably won. For 68 minutes of that match, we controlled everything like a proper Premier League side should control a championship team that's struggling in the lower half of their own division. The football was flowing beautifully. The tactical system was working exactly as designed. The new signings were gelling brilliantly with the established players, creating the kind of understanding and chemistry that usually takes months to develop. We looked like a team with a clear identity, a defined playing style, a genuine sense of purpose and direction. We should have managed to see the game out far better than we did, Postecoglou admitted. And that single sentence tells you everything you need to know about his standards, his expectations, his refusal to accept mediocrity in any form. This isn't a manager who's satisfied with moral victories or promising performances that ultimately lead nowhere. This is a winner, someone who demands results, someone who understands that football matches are decided by what happens in the final minute, not by how pretty you look for the first hour. The frustration runs much deeper than just one cup tie, though, doesn't it? This is about establishing a proper culture at the city ground, about building something sustainable and meaningful that can withstand the inevitable setbacks and challenges. Every time we take 2 steps forward in our development, we seem to take 3 giant steps backward. Every time we start believing that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different, something like this happens to bring us crashing back down to earth with a sickening thud. While there were undeniably some very promising individual performances and positive tactical developments, ultimately, the main takeaway is that we are eliminated from a cup competition when we absolutely should have progressed to the next round, the gaffer continued. And that's the brutal truth that cuts through all the analysis and excuses. All the pretty passing, all the slick movement, all the tactical improvements and individual brilliance mean absolutely nothing if you can't close out a 2-0 lead against lower league opposition. What really got to me, what made me want to put my foot through the television, was when he said, "Some genuinely promising displays were clearly evident throughout the match, but all of that positive work diminishes significantly when you realize we've squandered a golden opportunity to make real progress." That's a manager who understands that football is fundamentally about winning matches, not about playing well and losing beautifully while everyone applauds your commitment to entertaining football. This frustration, this disappointment, this overwhelming sense of opportunity wasted, it's exactly what we needed to hear from our manager. Because it shows he gets it. He understands what this club should be about, what we're genuinely capable of achieving when we put our minds to it and maintain our concentration for a full 90 minutes. The question that's haunting everyone connected with Forest now is painfully simple. How do we respond to this? How do we make absolutely certain that this kind of collapse never, ever happens again? Because if we can't beat championship sides in cup competitions, if we can't maintain a 2-goal lead for more than 20 minutes, what realistic hope do we have of achieving anything genuinely meaningful this season? The harsh reality is that opportunities like this don't come around very often in football. Cup runs can transform seasons, can build the kind of confidence and momentum that carries teams to unexpected heights. We've just thrown away what might have been our best chance of silverware for years to come, and that's a burden that every player in that dressing room will have to carry. This was meant to be our night to believe, our night to dream, our night to start something genuinely special under revolutionary new management. Instead, we're left picking up the pieces of yet another painful defeat, another missed opportunity, another stark reminder that in football, you can never, ever allow yourself to switch off, not even for a second. Hit that like button if you're as frustrated, as genuinely heartbroken as I am after watching this unfold. Drop a comment with your honest thoughts on where we go from here, and make absolutely sure you're subscribed because trust me, we need to stick together through nights like this, through the pain and the disappointment and the questions about whether we'll ever get it right. The question everyone's asking now, the question that'll define the next few weeks. Is this the wake-up call our players desperately needed, or just another painful chapter in our long, complicated history of disappointment and missed chances? And with Saturday's crucial match against Burnley looming large, how does Postecoglou bounce back from this setback and prove he's still the right man to lead us forward? Because one thing's for certain, we can't afford many more nights like this one.